So around this time last year, I was uploading a video with my final thoughts on Red Alert 2 after finishing it for the first time. And I said at the end of that, well, hopefully I'll be going straight into Yuri's Revenge soon. Unfortunately, it took me, well, half a year to get around to it, and I only started playing earlier in 2022. Now 3 more months have passed, and I've still not uploaded my final thoughts for that, so long overdue again. In fact, it's been even longer than that. We're going to go through Yuri's Revenge and discuss what I thought of it, because I think it's a game that's worth talking about a bit. So thanks everyone for bearing with me on this, and a special thank you as well to both Lexile and Zaptagus, who have been going through the co-op levels with me. There's not as much to the co-op levels as I'd maybe hoped there would be. The original ones are basically just skirmish maps. They have some text briefing, but that's it. Other than that, you're just playing skirmish, 2 versus 2 against the AI. The Yuri's Revenge one have a little bit more to them. They at least get like a spoken word intro by that faction's appropriate Ava, but other than that and some starting units, there ain't much difference. Still, in the background of this video, I'm just going to be showing some of the highlights for that. There was a couple of units, both from the base game and in Yuri's Revenge, I never actually saw playing through the campaigns, so I'm just going to feature some of those in the background here. I want to talk more about Yuri's Revenge itself though, and how it compares to the vanilla Red Alert 2. When I completed Red Alert, I was kind of mixed feelings on it. The gameplay wise, I was really pleased and impressed with it. I think I went so far as to say it was possibly the best game or best playing Command & Conquer game there was. But on the other side of things, I wasn't that invested in the story and the characters. There was a couple of standouts. I did really like Sophia, and Yuri of course was terrific. But other than that, they weren't. The rest of the cast wasn't bad, but the story just didn't grip me. Yuri's Revenge took both sides of that, both the gameplay and the story, and just ramped it up and made it even better on both counts. Red Alert 2 already felt like the culmination of everything that had come before it to create the most complete playing game, and Yuri's Revenge refined that. Took the few things that weren't quite working as well as they could have been, and streamlined it, fixed it, made the 2 existing factions even more fun to play, expanded their arsenal in really interesting ways, and then the whole new faction. I'm going to talk about Yuri's faction separately in a moment. The story though is where the expansion made the most stride forwards. It continued with its kind of campy character that it had, so it didn't feel out of place with all the other Red Alert 2 that had come before it, but I just found it so much more interesting, the time travelling plot. Yuri just throughout it, kind of playing against both the Allies and the Soviets. What he was up to just felt absurd, but also kind of a legitimate threat kind of thing at the same time. So you were kind of forced to take this ridiculous character seriously, but it really worked for me. I'm going to repeat what I said in that original video and say I'd need to play through Tiberian Wars again to get a final verdict on how Red Alert 2 ranks in compared to the rest of the series. Subjectively, I said this before, Tiberian Sun remains a favourite, but Red Alert 2 objectively is just a better playing game. The story I thought was weaker in the vanilla game, but now Yuri's Revenge comes around, and yeah, I mean, it really gives Tiberian Sun a run for its money. The characters too all came back in full force. I didn't really have much of an opinion of Tanya in the original game, but her presence in Yuri's Revenge was more notable to me. I ended up completing Yuri's Revenge thinking I probably prefer Red Alert 2 Tanya to the original Tanya from Red Alert 1. Carvel's neither here nor there for me. I don't dislike him, he kind of serves his role in the story. Sophia again stood out as probably the best. She had some great lines both in the cutscenes and in gameplay as well, given little snippets when new units were introduced. A few of them made me laugh quite a lot. In fact, across the board, there was a number of things throughout Yuri's Revenge and in Red Alert 2 that just made me laugh. More than most games, so yeah, it definitely did something right in that regard. Yuri, of course, was given his A game, and it was just a joy to kind of watch those cutscenes, and when he would appear on your map screen as well, and try and intimidate you. One thing I felt when I was playing it, it's neither a good or a bad thing, but it reminded me a lot of older games from the kind of 80s and 90s in its level design. Not in the RTS aspect of it, but of the kind of themed maps that filled up the latter half of each campaign, whether that was on Easter Island, on the moon, in Transylvania, or Antarctica. I forget what the other later Allied missions were, but there were definitely some other kind of themed maps there. And it was kind of like a jumping from very distinct locations with their each unique art style. And if I think back to kind of platformers and other games of kind of the early 90s and 80s, they also kind of feature a similar mindset in their design. You complete one area, you go to a different world, and it's got a very distinctive art style to it. And Yuri's Revenge kind of, it felt like the developers were having fun with that. Hollywood, that was another one in the Allied campaign. When you've got that kind of plot, you can afford to kind of jump around a bit. You don't need to make it feel sense like there's an active war going on as such. And that was good set dressing in a couple of missions too, where you would return to some of the Red Alert 2 areas, like the Golden Gate Bridge and then Einstein's Lab. I feel like there was probably another one that's not coming to mind. The levels, almost without exception, not just in their art style, but just design, were really well made, really fun to play. Easter Island was the exception. That was just really awkward, having to weave back and forwards, and then kind of felt like I hadn't properly dealt with the threat there when I completed the level. I managed to kind of reach the or destroy the subpens and stuff, but it was just really annoying to kind of weave back and forwards, constantly kind of under fire, and never quite felt happy with the way that that level was playing, with just a never-ending stream of Yuris coming across, and my expansion forwards through the level didn't seem to be having any effect on slowing the AI down. It just seemed to be relentless and relentlessly annoying, having to weave along those coastlines and up and down the cliffs. That was maybe the one misstep. I feel like that shouldn't have been the launch site for getting to the moon. So I felt like the moon should have been the finale of the campaign. It was so unique, and some really fun units there. The cosmonauts were just great fun to play with. But that should have been the end. Like, Transylvania makes perfect sense as a setting for a level in this campaign. Fits right in with Yuri's character. But that should have been either Mission 5 or Mission 6. And if it was going to be 6, that should have been the launch site to get to the moon. And Easter Island should have been some other, just, deal with Yuri's subfleet or something. It didn't feel right to have that what felt for me like a grand finale on the moon, only to return to Earth to do a kind of less notable mission in its design. Not that that was a bad mission, in fact I quite liked it, but once you got both the Soviet and the Allied bases, it was kind of just absolutely crush Yuri between them, and didn't feel like it was nearly as well defended as the final Allied mission in Antarctica. That was a really good fun level to play. Not so much kind of ridiculous in its design. I think the Soviet campaign pushed that further than the Allied. But I like the fact that we kind of had that base on what I guess was South America or whatever it was in the northern half of the map, and we were getting attacks there on the coastlines, had to fortify it, and then an Allied force, different faction, because we were playing as both Soviets and Allies, or at least we had both techs, came in from the south, and we had to defend both bases while building up a force in the south. I think the new Allied and Soviet units, for the most part, were pretty good. I found myself over-relying on siege choppers. Kind of, when I was playing as the Allies, my favourite mix was kind of Rocketeers and Prism tanks, and then with some Mirage tanks as well thrown in there. Once siege choppers came around, they kind of... I was really fond of the Rocketeer as a unit, and so when I was playing as the Soviets, I was building siege choppers as kind of that Rocketeer, not really taking advantage of their expanded abilities by kind of landing and deploying them, but it just felt to me like so few units can fire at you when you're in the air that I could just see myself expanding the numbers much quicker when they just stayed in the air, and at that point it didn't matter that their weapons were less powerful because the numbers were just going up and up and up. I didn't necessarily want to risk them on the ground because I don't know, I just assumed that they would be not particularly well armored, and their cannons, I don't know how powerful they were, again, because I didn't particularly use them very much, but it just felt like it was a single cannon equivalent to half an Apocalypse tank or a Grizzly or a Rhino or something. So I get the impression they were probably better than that, better than I was giving them credit for, but I wanted that Rocketeer side of things. I just wanted a stronger Rocketeer, essentially. It did kind of boil down to at the end of the day, and this is something I'm particularly bad for doing every Command & Conquer game, is just picking out 2 or 3 favorite units. At least it's not as bad as it is in the first generation games where you can just use mammoth tanks to finish all the levels. But if I'm Allies, Prisms, Mirage and Rocketeers, and then if I'm Soviets, it's Siege Choppers and Apocalypse tanks. And between them they've got all the bases covered. The anti-infantry, the anti-air, kind of strong units and powerful cannons to kind of blast your way through base defenses. But let's talk about Yuri as a faction by himself, because it really highlighted something for me, a complaint I've heard about Tiberium Wars, the third game. I never really understood until I played Yuri's Revenge, and that is that the Skrin doesn't feel alien enough. Now, to me, the Skrin were fine in Tiberium Wars. I enjoyed playing them, I enjoyed fighting against them. I had no issues there. Seeing Yuri in Yuri's Revenge, though, the faction, really highlights just how similar the Skrin are in playstyle to GDI and Nod. I know they have their differences in Tiberium Wars we're talking about here, but just Yuri's faction was so unique in its slave miners, in its gathering resources through the grinder, and just other differences. It's a kind of reliance on mind control, but not just one unit within that, not just a mastermind or cultist if you were playing Kane's Wrath expansion, but you had your regular Yuri clones, you had Yuri himself, you had the masterminds as tanks. Oh, sorry, that's confusing. I was talking about Skrin masterminds from Tiberium Wars a second ago. But yeah, and then you had those psychic towers as well. And just, yeah, it really incorporated the psychic aspect of Yuri into so many of his units and structures as well. The psychic radar kind of took that feature previously unique to the Soviets and just kind of integrated it into the radar. And then, like, you had the power plants as well. I didn't even realize, I can't remember when I realized this, but yeah, you can garrison infantry within the biolabs to create more power that way. And I thought that was just a fantastic concept. It was something else that you could use the mind control on civilians or your own units or enemy units, and either drive them into or walk them into a grinder for extra cash, or walk them into your power plants for extra power. And there was just so many little aspects like that. I was really, really impressed with how well integrated that was into the faction. Visually as well, very distinct. Even some of the things that were shared assets or carried over from Red Alert 2 had a slight redesign. So there was more kind of brass and kind of sloped bricks as opposed to Red Alert the Soviets had a very industrial kind of red brick appearance to all their structures. So yeah, I will be interested to see what my opinion on the Skrin is once I get back to Tiberium Wars. There was one very strange issue I came across again and again throughout the campaign and in the co-op maps, and it was pervasive across pretty much every level, and that was a complete lack of resources. And I don't recall it being a particular issue in the vanilla game, but constantly I was just out of cash. And not because I didn't have enough harvesters or refineries or whatever, but because there was just not enough ore on the map, and it would just expire and not grow back at nearly fast enough rate to kind of fund the war effort. So things just kind of ground to a halt after X amount of time. And there didn't seem to be, for both me and the AI, and there was not really any way to break that stalemate. And, I mean, in a kind of different kind of game, not in an RTS, that could be, you could have different strategies around that. I'm thinking more kind of Civilization that kind of thing. But in Red Alert, you were just kind of deadlocked and everything just came to a halt. And there was no fun way of continuing to play. You just had to slog it out at a very slow pace until eventually you kind of chipped away enough to get through to the vital structures and kind of finish the base off. I don't want to end on a down note though, because genuinely this was probably the most fun I've had in a Command & Conquer game for a long time. And it was definitely better than the first generation of games and the main Red Alert 2. Objectively, it's better than Tiberian Sun. I can't deny it, but like I say, Tiberian Sun just holds a special place in my heart, so I can't truthfully say I'd prefer to play Yuri's Revenge over that. But I totally understand why so many people still do. Like at one point we booted up CNCnet to play some of the co-op levels, and I expected, I don't know, a dozen games going, you know, just a small kind of group of people, and there was just like hundreds of people online, hundreds, in this game that's like 20 years old, older than that now. And that was really nice to see, and it really begs the question why there is not a remake coming for it or a remaster, because I feel like there is an audience there, especially, you know, if that many people are still playing it after this number of years, then there's many other people who have fond memories of it who would return, and a strong multiplayer community like that could definitely grow in size. People who are returning just on a whim, seeing that kind of core player base might encourage them to stick around. Anyway, I'm going to have some more Command & Conquer videos coming out in the coming days. In fact, I think the way I'm going to upload this, I'm going to have one level coming out the same time as this one from the Ashes user campaign for Red Alert 1. Once I've completed that, I'm probably going to look at moving. Well, I'm undecided because I could go in a number of different directions now. Red Alert 3, I believe, my understanding of the campaign, again, I've never played it, but I'm pretty sure I've seen the cutscenes at some point in the last decade. My understanding is it goes back and does the Red Alert 2 story again, so another time travel shenanigans kicks the events off of Red Alert 3, which slightly alters things, but it's essentially a direct follow-on. So like, as the story is ending, the Soviets go and change time. So I could feasibly just go straight into that one next. I might also go to Tiberian Wars, which I suspect is probably the best of the three options. But that is more of a finale. I know there's another Command & Conquer game after that, but in my mind, that is more of an end point, and then after which, I don't know, we'll look at other things. The other option is going in and playing Generals. Now, I've never played Generals before. It doesn't particularly stand out to me as much as the others, but if I want to continue playing through them in chronological order, that would make the most sense. I know that game also has kind of a core audience, so it might be better to go and do that one next. But I'm undecided, so if you want to share your thoughts below, we can maybe look at doing whatever is the most popular option. Anyway, thank you all very much for bearing with me. I know it's been a long time since I did anything Command & Conquer-wise, so yeah, hopefully we can get the ball rolling and start getting some more videos out in the near future. Thanks again.
Establishing battlefield control. The Soviet bases in Cuba must be eliminated. One commander will be positioned near Havana. The second commander will be positioned on the northern shore near a secret Allied air base. The Soviets have 2 bases to the east. Building.
Sorry, do you need some extra assistance over there? You're rocked in.
Yeah, because it can actually shoot
sorry, I'm moving to help. Oh, hang on, my aircraft carrier is definitely a range here. Okay, we got this.
Yeah.
It didn't even make it. It was destroyed.
Okay, what's left now? Oh, it's...
Oh no, there's one hidden in the forest there.
Oh yeah, I got it.
Player defeated.
Awesome.
Here we go.
You are victorious. Establishing battlefield control. Yuri has 2 bases in Los Angeles. One commander will begin near LAX. The other commander will be positioned to the east near several oil derricks and power plants. New construction options.
That guy must have made it right into the middle of the base and
Player
Yeah,
defeated.
for me it looks like a
Insufficient
an
funds.
initiate.
Unit
It's
lost.
in your IFB now.
You could put it inside of my units.
I have, yeah.
Oh, what happens if I put a Rambo inside of this? Oh, that's boring. It just gives a
What does the spy give you? Just a Gatling gun.
yeah.
Player defeated.
There we go. Finally.
You are victorious.
Awesome.
Low end.
Establishing battlefield control. Yuri and the Soviets have been pushed back into Russia,
Yeah.
but they still
Get
have
some
enough
basic
combined
bases.
forces to pose a
Yeah, I think
serious
the
threat to
pillboxes
the
might
Allied
be good because
nations.
you can repair them as
Building.
they are being
New
attacked.
construction options.
They're
construction
relatively
complete.
good against.
Unit ready.
Got this. What's
Yeah,
nothing
it's
left?
attack.
Unit promoted.
It's the slave miner. It's down at the bottom.
Yeah.
Kill.
Unit ready. Player defeated.
Awesome.
You are victorious.
Excellent.
Establishing
Yuri's
battlefield
taken over.
control. The Allies have a stronghold
Oh.
in the city of Seattle. They have
bunch
established
of
a
Grand
base
Cannons
with
and
heavy
stuff.
artillery near the Space Needle.
Yeah.
A second base resides in the heart of the city. Defensive positions have been constructed around the city.
Oh, yeah, they have a bunch of stuff over here.
Beacon detected.
Yeah. And that way. You got that gap generator. It's like this guy.
Player
There
defeated.
we go. Was it? Who's left? Apparently Blue is still alive somewhere.
Yeah, there are a couple of pixels. Oh yeah, the chrono miners just like right next to you.
Oh yeah. Look at those filigrated sea jumpers.
Player defeated.
I love that
You are
unit and I only use
victorious.
them to 50%.
Establishing battlefield
Just
control.
amazing.
The traitor Yuri is rebuilding his forces in the Egyptian desert. He has established 2 bases in the area and placed Gatling cannons around the pyramids to protect his position. Building. New construction.
Oh my god.
Building. On hold.
I've not had an industrial plant this entire time. All those units got a full price.
Oh my god, they have a huge
Unit
army.
ready.
Yeah, I know, and I haven't got a
Repairing.
lot really to defend this.
New rally point established.
I trust. What's the range of that magnetron? It's throwing a purple beam across.
God.
There you
Oh,
go.
what the? Okay.
I think that was the magnetron's fault.
Establishing
because-
battlefield control. It appears the Black Forest of Germany will be the final resting place for both of our enemies. The Allies' last production facility is located there. Yuri's remaining forces have
Does he
also
have a,
retreated into the same forest.
Siege choppers
We
indeed. They look
believe that
much
Yuri is
bigger
looking
than
for
usual,
Einstein's
but
secret
just me.
laboratory to steal technology that will help him rebuild his army. If either commander can locate Einstein laboratory before Yuri finds it, he may be able to steal useful Allied technology.
We're gonna be sitting here all night.
Yeah,
Trying to find
we
out.
could just call it a day. We'll give it a minute to find it. There's like the whole map scouted now.
It's kind of like I want to find it now.
Okay, fine. I will wipe out neutrals just in case.
Establishing
Like a Pyrrhic
battlefield
degree
control.
for
Alliance
the RA
requested.
factions because they technically
Building.
won, but
New construction options.
The ultimate turtle strat. Just put Mirage next to
Construction
the
complete.
forest.
New construction options.
Moving in. Airspeed to max. Looking for clearing.
Spy
kill my
plane
slaves.
Yeah,
ready.
I'm sorry about that.
Unit ready.
At least they were just slaves. I thought one of them was Tanya in that. Right, who's hiding left?
we have a tank bunker here.
Oh yeah. How is it still firing? Even your burner dies.
Yeah, he's targeting the bunker and not the.
Player defeated.
There we go.
Missile.
You are victorious.
Establishing battlefield control.
The Allies have constructed defenses around their precious White House. They hide behind their technology like scared children. They stand no chance against our psychic powers. Crush the American capital and the spirit of its peoples.
Awesome. Okay, so we've
Building.
got like an actual briefing
New
there at the start.
construction.
There's an option in
Unit
when you're setting
ready.
up the match. I don't know if it's going to go back to the lobby next or what, but you can click the short game, and that way, just when all the buildings go, I think they just lose instantly.
Yeah, that might be the best way to go forward.
Player defeated.
Yes.
There we go.
You are victorious.
Okay.
Establishing
Yeah,
battlefield
airfield.
control.
The Red Army has managed to
I can
steal
put
the
out,
Allies' prism technology.
paratroopers
They are trying to develop their own version
Oh, yeah.
of the prism
I've got,
tower,
3
a
engineers.
secret research
Got a
facility
little
deep
army.
in Yucatan jungle. launch a surprise attack on their base and squash the Soviets' last hope for victory.
Take me to
Oh, yeah,
process.
that's not good.
Focusing energy.
Player defeated. You are
That
victorious.
went a lot smoother.
The Allies and Soviets have joined forces against us. They have regrouped and gathered the last of their forces in the city of London. You will be positioned to the south of the enemy, across the Thames River. Victory will be ours once the last of the enemy forces have been annihilated.
Oh wait, it's down again.
Unit lost. Unit ready. Our ally is under attack.
Ah, reconnected.
Oh, goddammit.
Oh, we were so close.